I thought I was just getting older, but I was actually getting weighed down. It started as little things: skipping lunch to save money, not turning on the heat to be smart with bills, saying no to dinner with friends because the credit card bill had grown again. And I told myself, that's just what aging looks like. But here's the truth. It wasn't age. It was old habits quietly stealing the light from my golden years. In today's video, we're going to gently uncover 9 silent money habits that many women over 60 fall into without even realizing it. These aren't just about dollars and cents. They're about freedom, peace, and how we show love to others and to ourselves. If you've ever looked at your bank account and thought, where did it all go? Or if you've ever felt guilty for spending on yourself, this is for you. We're not here to judge. We're here to reclaim joy, one small, loving choice at a time. Let me tell you about Nancy. She's 70, retired, widowed for 5 years now. She has a cozy little home, a cabinet full of old photo albums, and a closet full of things she bought, hoping they'd fill the quiet. A treadmill she used twice, a fancy blender still in the box, 3 streaming subscriptions she forgot she had. One morning, while searching for a sweater, she sat down and whispered to herself, I have all this stuff and still feel so empty. That morning, Nancy didn't make a shopping list. She made a different kind of list, things she actually wanted to feel again: lightness, joy, simplicity. And it all began with a choice. One small thing she let go of. And that's where we begin too, because the first trap is one many of us know too well. Let's talk about the quiet pressure to look like we've got it all together. Shall we? Let's start with something tender. Something so many women carry quietly, even after retirement. Even after the parties stop and the office closes. It's the belief that our worth is somehow tied to how we look, what we wear, what brand is on our purse, what label lines the collar of our blouse. I remember Helen. She's 68 now, lives in a little town in Pennsylvania. For decades, Helen took pride in her wardrobe. She used to say, looking sharp is part of showing up. Her closet was a gallery. Chanel, Coach, crisp blazers from Nordstrom, all arranged by color and season. But something changed after she retired. One morning, standing in front of her full closet, she asked herself, who am I dressing up for now? That question sat heavy on her chest. She wasn't going into meetings anymore. She wasn't hosting holiday dinners. Her days were now filled with slower, softer moments, playing cards with her sister, baking cookies with her grandkids, reading by the window. None of those moments asked for $300 shoes. What they asked for was her, comfortable, present, and real. She still dresses beautifully, of course, but these days, her favorite things are cotton soft cardigans, her gardening apron, and the slippers that carry the memory of every morning cup of tea. And when I asked her what made her feel most beautiful now, she smiled and said, my grandbaby's eyes when she runs toward me. That's my sparkle. You see, somewhere along the way, we were told a lie, that elegance is external, that our image defines our value. But the truth? Real elegance is how someone feels in your presence. It's the peace in your voice, the warmth in your hug, the quiet strength you carry when you sit beside someone and really listen. So if you find yourself tempted by another flashy bag, another brand name coat, pause. Ask gently, is this for my joy or for my old story of worth? Because when we no longer need to prove anything, we get to live as who we really are. And that clarity of knowing what matters and what doesn't is powerful. Which brings us to the next quiet trap, one that hides in your pocket, buzzes in your hand, and keeps asking for your attention. The pressure to upgrade your technology. Shall we take a closer look? Now let's talk about something that sneaks in quietly, usually wrapped in excitement, often disguised as progress: technology upgrades. Every year, it seems like a new phone, a new tablet, a new device is released. And with it, the message that what we have is suddenly not enough. They tell us we need faster this, smarter that, better cameras, brighter screens. And if we're not careful, it begins to feel like we're falling behind. Let me tell you about Ruth. She's 72, lives in a cozy home in Oregon, and for most of her life, she's been the tech-savvy one in her family. She loved learning new things, stayed curious, even helped her friends figure out how to use their phones. So when the newest phone came out, titanium case, high-end camera, face recognition, she thought, why not? She spent over $1,000. It felt like a gift to herself. But here's what happened. The buttons were different. The menus had changed. The camera had more features than she needed, and notifications came from apps she'd never used. She missed calls. She couldn't find her messages. Her phone, once a tool for connection, had become a source of frustration. She wasn't less smart. The tech was simply no longer made with her in mind. And that's the lesson Ruth shared with me over tea one afternoon. She said, "I thought I needed the newest thing to keep up, but what I really needed was something that simply worked, for me." So she returned the phone. She dug out her older model, familiar, functional, and perfectly fine. It does what she needs: FaceTime with her granddaughter, read emails, listen to music while folding laundry. No stress, no constant updates, just peace. We live in a world that says more is always better. But real wisdom, the kind that grows with age, knows this: if it's not bringing more ease into your life, it's not worth your time, your money, or your energy. So the next time you feel the pressure to keep up, pause. Ask yourself, is this helping me feel more connected or more overwhelmed? And if it's the latter, give yourself permission to choose simple. Choose enough. Choose peace. Because the truth is, you are not falling behind. You're just no longer running the race. Now, let's look at another hidden stressor. One that doesn't come with flashing screens, but with quiet numbers. Let's talk about credit card interest and the emotional weight it carries. Now let's talk about something that doesn't sit on your shelf or hang in your closet, but still weighs on you every day. Credit card interest. It's quiet, invisible, but it's there, hiding in monthly statements, building slowly with time. For many of us, credit cards started as a way to help. A quick fix for car repairs, groceries between checks, birthday gifts for the grandkids. Nothing extravagant, just life. But over the years, those balances grow. And before we realize it, we're paying hundreds, sometimes thousands, not on what we bought, but on what we borrowed. Let me tell you about Joanne. She's 70, a retired librarian in Florida. After her husband passed, Joanne began shopping online more. It filled the silence. She'd send toys to her grandkids, order candles she loved, fix little things around the house. It helped her feel in control. But one day, while reviewing her accounts, she noticed something that made her stomach drop. She had paid over $9,000 in interest over just 2 years, not including the balance, just interest. And suddenly, the candles didn't smell so sweet. The purchases didn't feel comforting anymore. They felt heavy. But here's what I admire about Joanne. She didn't let shame take over. She didn't bury it. She faced it with strength. She called her bank. She set up a plan. She sold a few things she no longer needed. And most of all, she forgave herself. Because debt is not just a number. It's emotional. It whispers at night. It steals peace of mind. And it can make you feel stuck, embarrassed, even afraid to tell anyone. But you are not alone. Millions of women are carrying this quiet burden. The important thing is not how fast you fix it, it's that you start. Because every dollar you free up is a piece of your peace coming back to you. And every time you make a payment, no matter how small, you're reminding yourself, I deserve freedom. So if you haven't looked at your balances in a while, maybe today is the day. Not out of fear, but out of love for yourself and your future. And speaking of quiet burdens, there's one more we rarely notice, until it starts taking money out of our pockets without us even realizing. Let's talk about unused subscriptions and the slow drain they create. Let me ask you something gently. When was the last time you checked all the little things quietly pulling money from your bank account? I'm not talking about groceries or doctor visits. I'm talking about subscriptions. The ones you signed up for during a free trial, or maybe late at night because it looked interesting. They're small, $9 here, $12 there, but they add up, and fast. Take Margaret, 66, from Texas. During the pandemic, when the world felt uncertain and lonely, she found comfort in signing up for things. Streaming services, fitness apps, language courses. At one point, she had 7 different subscriptions. It felt like she was doing something productive, staying connected, staying active. But months went by, and one afternoon, while looking at her bank statement, she felt a strange ache. $94.30 a month, and she was mostly watching old reruns on cable and listening to the radio while she folded laundry. No yoga videos, no Spanish lessons, just habits she had forgotten to cancel. That day, Margaret pulled out a pen and a yellow notepad. She wrote down every subscription she could find. Then, with a deep breath, she began canceling them, one by one. All except for one she truly loved, a classical music app that played while she cooked dinner. And do you know what she did with the money she saved? She treated herself. A Saturday lunch with her sister, a fresh haircut, a donation to the animal shelter she'd supported for years. Because those little charges weren't just taking dollars, they were stealing choices. And once she got them back, she felt lighter. In control again. Here's what I want you to know. You are not wasteful. You are not careless. You are simply human. And it's easy to forget these tiny digital drips until they form a quiet flood. So take a moment this week. Look at your statements. Ask yourself, am I still using this? Does it still bring me joy? And if not, let it go. Not as a punishment, but as an act of care, of reclaiming. Now, some choices may seem small, but others, like lottery tickets, feel full of promise, even when they're quietly taking more than they give. Let's talk about that next. Let's talk about something tender, something that feels harmless, even hopeful, but can quietly steal more than we realize. I'm talking about lottery tickets. Just a few dollars here, maybe $10 there, folded with a whisper of, maybe this time. For many, it's not really about the jackpot. It's about possibility. A chance to imagine something brighter, easier, like a door that might finally open. Let me tell you about Dolores, a kind woman from Ohio who used to buy a Powerball ticket every week, $10 on Wednesday, $10 on Saturday, and maybe a few scratch-offs in between. She didn't see it as gambling. To her, it was just dreaming. She imagined paying off her mortgage, taking her grandkids to Disney, donating to her church. Every losing ticket was followed by a soft sigh, but never a real regret. Until she added it all up. One afternoon, Dolores sat down with a notebook and curiosity. She went through her bank statements and receipts. When she totaled everything over the last 5 years, her hands went still. Over $5,000, gone, quietly, bit by bit. And what did she have to show for it? a shoebox of losing stubs, a dream that never came. But here's the part that moved me most. Dolores didn't feel angry. She felt awakened. She realized she wasn't chasing money. She was chasing hope. So she made a choice. Every week, instead of buying a ticket, she'd put that same amount into a jar labeled Future Joy. She used it to buy herself a watercolor set, to join a day trip group at her senior center, to take her sister to lunch. Week by week, she rebuilt her sense of joy, not with luck, but with love. Because the truth is, you are already rich in the ways that matter, in wisdom, in resilience, in the people who care when you speak. And there is no number on earth that can replace that. So if you find yourself still hoping through tickets, I invite you to pause. Ask, what am I really wishing for? And is there a way to bring that wish to life? Not through chance, but through small, beautiful, deliberate choices? Now let's look at another place where convenience quietly costs more than we expect. Food delivery. It may seem like a small comfort, but sometimes it hides a deeper kind of hunger. There's something so tempting about food delivery. A few taps on the phone, and a warm meal arrives at your door. No dishes, no grocery list, no standing at the stove, just ease. And especially when you're tired, emotionally or physically, it feels like a small kindness to yourself. But comfort can quietly become a kind of disconnection. Let me share the story of Linda, 63, from California. After losing her husband, the silence in her home grew heavier each evening. Cooking for one felt pointless. The clatter of pots and pans didn't sound the same when there wasn't someone sitting at the table. So she started ordering in. Thai food on Monday, pasta on Thursday, burgers on the weekend. It filled the gap. Or so she thought. Months passed. At her annual checkup, Linda's doctor gently told her that her blood pressure was climbing. Her weight had crept up. Her energy was down. And more than that, her spirit felt dim. Not broken, just dulled. Linda hadn't realized that what started as a way to ease the pain had slowly become a pattern that was draining her. So she made one promise: 3 home-cooked meals a week. Nothing fancy, just real food she prepared herself. Roasted vegetables, a pot of soup, a piece of grilled chicken. And something shifted. She remembered the rhythm of chopping onions, the smell of garlic in a pan, the quiet pride of setting a table just for herself. Not because anyone was coming over, but because she mattered. One Sunday, she invited her neighbor over for lunch. They ate on the patio, laughed over stories, shared a simple salad. And for the first time in a long while, Linda felt nourished. Not just her body, but her soul. You see, cooking is not just about feeding ourselves. It's an act of care, of ritual, of staying connected to life. It tells your mind and heart, I am worth this effort. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with the occasional takeout. We all have those days. But when delivery becomes the default, we might be trading connection for convenience. So take a gentle look, not at the food, but at how it makes you feel. Does it lift you or leave you lonelier? And if the kitchen feels too quiet, too big, remember this: even a single chair, a single plate, a single smile at the stove can be the beginning of something beautiful. Now, let's talk about another kind of promise we sometimes make to ourselves. One that involves a big purchase, big hopes, and sometimes a heavy dose of guilt. Exercise equipment. We start with good intentions. A new year. A birthday promise. That hopeful voice inside saying, this time, I'll really stick with it. So we buy the treadmill, the elliptical, the shiny set of dumbbells. They arrive with the glow of possibility, like tools that might unlock a new, more energized version of ourselves. But then, life happens. Let me tell you about Nancy, 69, from Georgia. Last spring, she bought a top-tier elliptical machine. It sat proudly in her living room, polished and promising. For the first 2 weeks, she used it every day. She felt strong, motivated, even hopeful. But then a sore knee flared up. Her daughter came to visit. Her sleep got interrupted, and slowly, the elliptical became part of the furniture. A coat rack, a silent reminder. And here's the hardest part. Every time Nancy passed it, she didn't just feel guilty about not using it. She felt like she had failed. That somehow, the dust on that machine was proof she wasn't disciplined or motivated or strong enough. She began saying things like, "I'm just lazy." And that shame, not the machine, became the real weight she carried. But Nancy's story isn't rare. It's incredibly common. And here's the truth. Buying a piece of equipment doesn't guarantee change, and not using it does not mean you failed. It simply means the approach didn't fit your life, not your heart, not your rhythm, not your needs right now. Eventually, Nancy did something brave. She gave herself permission to let go. She sold the elliptical to a neighbor. Then she joined a local walking group that met at the park twice a week. No pressure, no machines, just sneakers, fresh air, and friendly faces. And do you know what happened? She began to move more, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She slept better. She laughed more, not because she had expensive equipment, but because she had made room for habits that felt joyful, doable, and kind. So if you have a treadmill that's now a towel rack, or a set of dumbbells tucked behind the couch, I want you to hear this. You are not lazy. You are human, and you deserve a kind relationship with movement, not one based on guilt, but on grace. Now let's turn to something that tugs at a different part of us, the part that longs to feel enough, to be better, to find our purpose, and sometimes pays a very high price for it, the world of expensive online courses. There's something quietly seductive about self-help courses. The titles promise purpose, clarity, healing. We tell ourselves, maybe this one will unlock the version of me I'm meant to be. And in that moment of longing, for meaning, for energy, for direction, it feels worth the price. That's what happened to Barbara, 71, from Minnesota. She had just retired after 40 years in nursing, a lifetime of showing up, helping others, always having a reason to get out of bed. And then one day, silence. The phone stopped ringing. The calendar was blank. Her sense of self, once defined by usefulness, started to blur. So when she saw a Facebook ad for a coaching course titled, "Awaken Your Inner Light," it felt like an answer. It cost over $4,000. But Barbara didn't hesitate. "This will give me back my purpose," she told herself. For months, she joined weekly Zoom calls, filled out endless worksheets, wrote letters to her future self. And yes, some moments felt moving. But when it all ended, Barbara sat with her notes and her heart and realized something quietly profound. Everything they tried to teach her, she already knew. She already had resilience. She had lived through loss and still stood strong. She already had wisdom, earned from sleepless nights, hard choices, and small miracles. She already had purpose. It just looked different now. So she stepped away from the virtual world and turned toward her real one. She joined a book club at her local library. She volunteered once a week at a women's shelter. She began mentoring a younger woman who had just lost her mother. And one afternoon, while helping that young woman fill out housing paperwork, Barbara whispered to herself, "This is it. This is what I was looking for." You see, true growth doesn't always need a certificate or a login. It needs connection. It needs contribution. And most of all, it needs us to trust that our value doesn't disappear with retirement or age. It just shifts into a different kind of light. If you've ever paid too much, hoping to find what you've already lived, be gentle with yourself. It doesn't mean you were foolish. It means you're still reaching, still growing, and that is something to honor. Now, let's talk about one of the most expensive habits many of us fall into without even realizing it. One that's parked right in our driveway. The allure of buying a brand new car. There's a moment, often quiet, often emotional, when our old car finally gives out. It's been with us through decades, grocery runs, grandkid pickups, road trips, and quiet drives to nowhere. And suddenly, we're standing in a dealership, surrounded by shiny new cars, being told, you deserve something fresh, something better. That's what happened to Edith, 75, from Illinois. After years of driving secondhand sedans, she decided it was time. I've worked hard. I want something new. So she bought a fully loaded SUV, leather seats, touchscreen dashboard, the works. And for a while, she loved it. The compliments, the smooth ride, the smell of new. But a year later, the glow faded. The monthly payments were heavy, the insurance was higher, and the car, now just a car, had lost 30% of its value the moment she drove it off the lot. She found herself skipping weekend getaways and saying no to lunch with friends, just to afford the dream. That's when she realized she had traded simplicity for status, and it wasn't worth the cost. So Edith sold it, downsized to a certified used car. Still safe, still smooth. And with the money she saved, she took a train ride through the Rockies, something she'd dreamed of for years. That trip gave her joy the SUV never could. You see, freedom isn't found in something new. It's found in what that new allows you to do, or sometimes what it quietly takes away. And now that we've looked at the habits that weigh us down, let's end by looking at what happens when we begin to let them go, gently, consciously, and step into a life that feels lighter. Letting go isn't about giving up. It's about choosing what no longer needs to come with you into this next chapter. Maybe it's a habit. Maybe it's a fear. Maybe it's just an old way of thinking that once kept you safe, but now keeps you small. You see, every story we shared today wasn't just about money or things. It was about freedom. The quiet kind. The kind that lets you breathe deeper, sleep better, smile easier. So I invite you, gently, lovingly, to ask yourself, what is one thing I'm ready to release? Not all at once, not perfectly, just one. And if you feel moved to share that, write it in the comments. You never know who else might need to hear they're not alone. Because this season of life isn't the end of your story. It's the part where you finally get to live it your way. Take care of your heart. It's carried you this far, and it deserves to walk light from here on out.